if you have a relationship with someone, it's predicated on trust. And part of the reason for that is that trust is what enables us to look at each other without running away screaming. And what I mean by that is that if I trust you, then I don't have to take into account how complicated you are, because you're horribly complicated. You know, I think chimpanzee full of snakes, that's what a human being is. And as long as you'll do what you say you'll do, then I can take you at your word, and your word simplifies you, and you can take me at my word, and my word simplifies you, and then we can act like we understand each other even though we don't. But then if that trust is betrayed, then all the snakes come forth very, very rapidly. And so all of you, I suspect, have been betrayed one way or another. And so what happens, if you're in a relationship with someone and you trust them, then you make certain assumptions about the past, and you make certain assumptions about the present, and you make certain assumptions about the future. And everything's stable, and so you're standing on solid ground. And the chaos, it's like you're standing on thin ice. The chaos is hidden. The shark beneath the waves isn't there. You're safe. You're in the lifeboat. But then if the person betrays you, like if you're in an intimate relationship and the person has an affair and you find out about it, then you think one moment you're one place, right? You're where everything is secure, because you've predicated your perception of the world on the axiom of trust. And the next second, you're in a completely different place. And not only is that place different right now, the place you were years ago is different, and the place you're going to be in the future years hence is different. And so all of that certainty, that strange certainty that you inhabit, can collapse into incredible complexity. And you say, well, if someone betrays you, you think, well, okay, who were you? Because you weren't who I thought you were. And I thought I knew you, but I didn't know you at all. And I never knew you. And so all the things we did together, those weren't the things that I thought were happening. Something else was happening. And you were someone else. And that means I'm someone else because I thought I knew what was going on. And clearly I don't. I'm some sort of blind sucker or the victim of a psychopath, or someone who's so naive that they can barely live. And I don't understand anything about human beings, and I don't understand anything about myself. And I have no idea where I am now. I thought I was at home, but I'm not. I'm in a house, and it's full of strangers, and I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow or next week or next year. It's like all of that certainty, that habitable certainty, collapses right back into the potential from which it emerged. And that's a terrifying thing. That's a journey to the underworld from a mythological perspective. And that is really something worth knowing, because, journeys to the underworld are extraordinarily common in mythological stories. And, like the Hobbit going out to find the Smog, the dragon, and get the gold is a journey into the underworld. And journeys to the underworld happen all the time. And modern people don't understand what the underworld is, except that we've all been there. And we go there all the time. And we go there every time the solidity and stability of the world that we've erected, at least partly through our speech, is shattered because, some sort of snake appears. That's another way of thinking about it. And it's a really good way of thinking about it because, no matter how carefully you construct the little habitable area that's around you, there's always something you didn't take into account, and there's always something that can pop up its head and do you in.
Move on. Straight up, move on. Forget them. They are lying, and they are untrustworthy, so move on. Now, sometimes this can be hard, especially if they've somehow tied themselves into your life, especially like, for instance, you get the kids involved in a divorce scenario. You can't move on, but you have to mentally move on. You have to emotionally detach from that human, and that's hard to do because obviously they were someone that you trusted. And the reason I know that you trusted them is because they got to a point where they were able to betray your trust and destroy you.
There are various ways to behave reprehensibly, but there's a hierarchy of reprehensible behavior, and there's something absolutely the worst at the bottom. And Dante believed that it was betrayal. And I think that's right, because, one of the things that enables long-term cooperation, peaceful cooperation between people is trust. And I would also say that trust is the fundamental natural resource. There's been some very good books written on the economic utility of trust, for example, and societies where the default economic presupposition between trading partners is trust tend to be rich, even if they don't have any natural resources.
So it's hard. But the fact that you trusted them, the fact that you had that relationship, that's even more reason to walk away. It's even more reason to move on. You got to see them for what they are. And this is an important piece right here. This is an important piece. This is something I learned as a young lad out there in the world. That person is not who you thought they were. Right? They are not who you thought they were. The idea that this person was a trustworthy, faithful companion is not true. It is not true. That person does not exist. They didn't exist, and they don't exist. It was in your head. It was in your head that this person was trustworthy and they were everything you wanted them to be and they were a faithful companion. That is a lie. They are not that person. They have proved it. They have proved it by their actions. So, move on, and at the risk of sounding callous, get over it. Get over it. Do not dwell on what it was. And don't dwell on what it could have been. You hear when guys go through bad breakups? You know, I thought we were gonna, it's like, no, don't dwell on that. Deal with what it is right now, what that person is. Deal with reality, accept reality, and be thankful for reality. Be thankful that you were able to learn before you invested more into this person. Be thankful that you found out when you did that this person was a liar, that this person was unfaithful, was untrustworthy. Be thankful that you know it. And you know it now instead of later. And you know what else is going to make it a lot easier to get over these situations? Is recognize that there's plenty of people out there in the world that are trustworthy and that are faithful, good people. They're out there. Go find one of them. But don't think that person that you had was the only one in the world. They're not. And you know what? Sometimes people have a hard time making that trust because they're so caught up and they don't want to meet someone else right away. That's fine. Start with yourself. Right? Rely on yourself. Trust yourself. Because when someone breaks our trust, we question ourselves too. Yes. Like we think my judgment's bad. I'm not a good judge of human character because I totally put my faith in this person and look what they did to me. So now we don't trust her. So you got to build that trust up. You got to build that trust up back again with yourself. How do you do that? Read, write, learn, work out, be alone. It's okay to be alone. Some people get freaked out when they're alone. It's okay to be alone. It's okay. It's okay to be alone. There's no big deal. Enjoy it. Do something productive. And build that trust up in yourself. You know, look back at the situation, learn from it. We do that. It's an post-operational debrief. Oh, you've put too much trust in somebody? Cool. They broke your heart? All right, roger that. Let's see. What were the steps? What should I have recognized? How many times did I say, well, you know, they didn't call me, but it's probably just because their phone was out of battery. No. Once your phone runs out of battery once, okay, you don't let it happen again, right? Yeah. So you start seeing those red flags, see the mistakes that you made. Mm-hmm. And then look for them next time around. Because you deal with people all the time that they made mistakes the first run. They go back and they make the same mistakes the second run. They go back and make the same mistakes the third run. That's when you got to start blaming yourself on your situation. Yeah. That's why I said you got to build a relationship with yourself. You got to learn yourself. You got to learn to trust yourself. So spend some time doing that. And then when you go back and you start dealing with people, because that's what you got to watch out for, is that you become a hardened criminal and you don't trust anybody. Yes. Like you were talking about cops. You know, sometimes cops have a hard time because they're dealing with scumbags all day long, right? And it builds up this mistrust of other people. Yeah. So you don't want to have that happen. You want to be suspicious of people, But you want to be able to build trust once they prove themselves. So take those small steps and start to build up over time. Don't just jump in and give someone 100% trust out of the gate. You don't know them. You don't know them. You know? Back in the day when old hardcore bands used to have this t-shirt that just said, trust no one. I was like, yeah, that's legit, right? You don't go out of the gate with the big trust on somebody with important stuff. Yeah. Don't do it. But the good news is, like I said, there's plenty of people out there that are good people that you can give all your trust to. Just take it slow, brother. Because guys, what she was, no, she wasn't. Yeah. That is a lie. That person that you put together in your head, that you've assembled in your mind, that person doesn't exist. They don't exist. Yeah. The person that you dealt with was a liar. Yeah. Was unfaithful, was a cheater. That's the person. The person wasn't this person that you're putting forth in your mind. That person doesn't exist. So stop. I have seen so many situations where guys are just, and what's horrible is I'm sitting here saying this, you could be smacking someone in the face, telling them move on, and they're not going to listen. That's so you got to make that decision. Yeah, that's it's hard, and guys ruin their lives. I mean, girls do too. Girls and guys, they ruin their lives. With over somebody that is completely abusive, whether mentally or physically, that just completely abusive, and they'll ruin their lives for this person. Yeah. And see, in my mind, I think it's because they build a person on the framework of reality. They build a fantasy. Yeah. And they're in love with that fantasy. Yeah. And they want to keep it going. Right. It's a fantasy. So stop.
Yeah. And they ignore like all the quote unquote red flags, and they remember the good times, even if it's like 10 minutes a week. They remember those good times. They ignore the red flags